Some things do not arrive by accident. There are moments, uncanny, inexplicable, luminous, that seem to shimmer at the edges of time, waiting for you to notice. This is one of those moments. The fact that you're here, seeing this title, engaging with these words, is not random. It's not the result of an algorithm or coincidence, though those may be the surface-level mechanics. Something deeper is stirring beneath the digital veil, something more ancient than time and more intimate than breath. Your future self, yes you, but from beyond the bend in this life's winding path, may have whispered this moment into being. Time, as we experience it, is an illusion stretched like glass across the flow of eternity. It appears linear because we have been conditioned to see it that way. But just beyond the line of sight, time loops and folds and spirals. In that spiral, there exists a version of you who already remembers what you are only beginning to awaken to. That version, your future self, is not bound by the limitations of your current awareness. It sees across timelines like stars scattered in a single glance. It knows the pivot points, the moments that matter, the choices that shift entire realities. And it has brought you here. Perhaps it happened as you were scrolling absent-mindedly, searching for something you couldn't quite name. Or maybe it was a whisper in the back of your mind, a gentle pulse of curiosity, a strange magnetism pulling you toward this message. Whatever the reason, here you are, and whether you believe in fate or free will, in divine orchestration, or the subtle nudges of intuition, it is undeniable that you were drawn to this for a reason. What if that reason is that this very message is the breadcrumb your soul left for you, a signal in the noise, a lighthouse in the fog of forgetfulness? We often think of the future as a destination, something we are running toward, one moment at a time. But what if the future also reaches for us? What if memory and destiny are not linear threads, but woven spirals of light, twisting and looping in impossible geometries? From that broader vantage, your future self has already walked this road. It has wept where you are weeping now. It has broken open where you are cracking. It has seen through the illusion where you still wrestle with doubt. And from its vantage, it understands that time can be bridged, not with technology, not with machinery, but with intention, resonance, and awareness. To send you this message, it did not need a satellite or a signal tower. It only needed the cosmos to align just right. One digital breath in the vast lung of the internet, and you clicked play. That click was a sacred act, whether you knew it or not. You said yes to remembering. You said yes to truth. You said yes to hearing the echo of your own voice across dimensions. And now you're listening. This is not a gimmick, not a viral hook in disguise. This is the turning of a wheel that has waited lifetimes to rotate. Perhaps you've had glimpses already. The dream that felt more real than waking life. The déjà vu that sent chills up your spine. The moment when time seemed to slow and your breath caught in your throat. Those were echoes. Those were murmurs from the self that knows. And that self has been calling you home, not to a location, but to a frequency, a remembrance of what you are beneath all the roles you've worn. It's easy to forget. The world is a dazzling hypnotist. It feeds you identities, rules, fears, and distractions. It tells you what to want, how to feel, who to be. But every now and then, there's a crack in the hypnosis, a glitch in the simulation, a moment where something ancient and electric wakes up inside you and whispers, "There's more. There's always been more." That whisper is not imagination. It is memory. There is a secret architecture to life, an invisible blueprint guiding the events, meetings, synchronicities, and awakenings. Not everything has meaning, but certain things have more meaning than others. This moment, right now, might be one of those. You are not just watching a video. You are stepping through a threshold, a liminal doorway between what you've been told and what you deeply know. And behind that door waits not just knowledge, but transformation. Because this isn't just about curiosity. This is about alignment. It's about resonance with your truest frequency, the one that hums just beneath your skin, vibrating with the memory of stars, of soul contracts, of lives lived and unlived. That frequency, when it is activated, does something extraordinary. It bends reality, not in the way science fiction imagines, but in the way ancient mystics understood. It bends reality by changing the observer, by shifting you. And when you shift, everything else must follow. That's why your future self sent you here. Not to be entertained, not to gather information, but to remember, to activate, to choose again the deeper truth, the one you've always known but have been waiting to hear out loud. You are not small. You are not stuck. You are not just a passenger in this life. You are the architect, the dreamer, the echo of divinity wearing human skin. You are more than the story you've accepted. In the coming pages, we will peel back the veil together. We will explore what it means to receive a message from your future self, not as metaphor, but as literal multidimensional contact. We will explore how the universe speaks through signs, symbols, and sacred interruptions. We will decode the patterns that hide in plain sight. We will walk through allegories, practical pathways, and real-world implications that tie the mystical to the mundane. But for now, just breathe. You're exactly where you need to be. The signal has reached you. The call has been answered. And nothing will be the same again. Not because this video changed you, but because you allowed yourself to remember what you've always known. When we speak of a message from your future self, we are not conjuring fantasy or metaphor, but instead pointing to a truth that exists just beyond the boundary of commonly accepted thought. The future self is not a fictional idea dressed in mysticism. It is a very real aspect of your multidimensional consciousness. It is you, from another vantage point. Not older, not wiser in the traditional sense, but less bound, liberated from the illusions you still wear like familiar clothing. To understand this message, we must first acknowledge that reality is not as fixed or solid as it appears. What you call life is a symphony of perception and vibration. Matter itself is only the visible tip of an immense energetic iceberg. Beneath every form is frequency, beneath every sound is silence, and beneath every thought is awareness. You are not simply a body with a mind. You are awareness itself, playing a temporary role inside a shifting dreamscape. Most people never question the script handed to them. They inherit names, beliefs, and goals like heirlooms, rarely pausing to ask, is this truly me? But there comes a moment, subtle or seismic, when something within cracks open. That moment of awakening often feels accidental, a strange dream, a profound conversation, an inexplicable emotion while watching a video. But these are not accidents. They are aligned events, resonant keys striking the chords of remembrance, and once struck, the sound cannot be unheard. At the core of this message is the idea that consciousness is not confined to one identity, one time, or one body. It is layered, like pages in a book, each version of you existing on a slightly different frequency. What you call the past and future are simply coordinates in the energetic field. Your future self is not watching you from afar. It is folded into you like a whisper in your breath, a flicker in your thoughts. It is reaching across the field not to impose, but to nudge, to suggest, to awaken. This message, the one you are reading, is an echo of that nudge, a pulse in the invisible web connecting all aspects of self. When we speak of higher consciousness, we are not speaking of intellectual superiority or abstract spirituality. We are speaking of alignment. When the ego loosens its grip, when fear quiets its roar, you begin to hear the finer signals, the signals that originate from beyond space and time. Your future self lives there. It sees not just the path you walk, but all the others you might have walked, all the possibilities you've yet to remember. Another core theme here is resonance. Reality is less like a solid wall and more like a fluid mirror. It reflects your internal state with eerie precision. When you shift internally, when you remember who you are beyond the roles, beyond the pain, beyond the narratives, your external world must respond. This is not wishful thinking or New Age optimism. It is law, like gravity. The resonance of your being shapes the frequency of your life, and your future self is already vibrating at the frequency you are moving toward. It is calling you forward through synchronicity, through signs, through these very words. But resonance does not come cheaply. It requires letting go of false structures. And that is the pain of awakening. It is not the light that hurts, but the tearing away of illusions. To receive the message of your future self is to face all the parts of you still clinging to the illusion of limitation. It is to meet your fear, your doubt, your stories of not being enough, and to recognize them for what they are, echoes of an old paradigm, not truth. The ego resists this message because it thrives on control. It wants predictable timelines, familiar beliefs, and proof before action. But the self that sent you here, the version of you that already knows, is beyond proof. It is not trying to convince you, it is simply reminding you. And reminders come not as commands, but as questions. What if you were never lost? What if you are already the being you seek to become? What if time is just the mirror in which you learn to recognize yourself? Another foundational concept woven into this exploration is the idea of choice as a cosmic instrument. You are not merely the receiver of fate, you are the chooser of timelines. Every belief you adopt, every perspective you hold, acts like a tuning fork. It calls forth versions of reality that match its frequency. Your future self is not trying to control you. It is offering you the highest resonance choice you can make in this moment. And the choice is always this: fear or remembrance, contraction or expansion, illusion or truth. Many feel a strange pull in moments like these. A tug in the chest, a flutter in the gut. That's not anxiety, that's recognition. It's the energetic body remembering a frequency it once knew by heart. This message may stir something ancient inside you. It may not be logical, it may not be comfortable, but it will feel true. Truth does not always come dressed in facts. Sometimes it comes cloaked in myth, in metaphor, in resonance. And when it does, it's not the mind that understands. It's the soul that recognizes. The world you were born into was built on forgetting the self, forgetting the divine, forgetting the interconnection of all things. But cracks are forming in that world. The veil is thinning. More and more people are remembering who they are. And that remembrance creates a ripple, a gravitational pull that reaches across time. Your future self is part of that ripple. It exists not just to guide you, but to be embodied through you. You are not evolving into something new. You are returning to what you have always been, only now with awareness. This is the quiet revolution, not of politics or power, but of perception. To awaken is to rebel against amnesia. To remember is to rewrite reality. And the key is not outside you. It never was. You've carried it all along, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment you were ready to turn the lock. If this message resonates, then that moment may be now. Let that idea settle. Let it sink into the spaces between thoughts, because the journey ahead will take you deeper into symbols, into ancient stories, into the archetypal maps your soul has walked across many lifetimes. This is not just a video, it is a mirror, a doorway, a signal from the self you are becoming. And that self is closer than you think. Language often fails to capture the multidimensionality of a truth that unfolds beyond time. So instead, we turn to the realm of myth and metaphor, where truths are not explained, but felt. The symbolic narratives that follow are not mere stories. They are echoes, reflections of the deeper architecture of consciousness, encoded in images and archetypes that speak directly to your soul. These symbols are not here to entertain. They are here to awaken. Imagine for a moment the figure of the sleeper. This is not a villain or a victim, but a sacred archetype. The sleeper walks the world believing they are awake, but their vision is covered by veils spun from fear, habit, and inherited belief. The sleeper does not know they are asleep. They follow clocks, obey rules, pursue goals, but all within a limited field of perception. The sleeper is not wrong. They are simply dreaming a dream too small. And then, one night, or perhaps one ordinary afternoon, they hear something, a phrase, a whisper, a video like this one, and something inside shifts. The story of the sleeper becomes the story of the rememberer. The rememberer is not fully awake yet, but they know there is something more. They feel the edges of a greater reality brushing up against their skin. They begin to see patterns in the chaos, messages in the mundane. The universe starts to speak in synchronicity, and suddenly everything seems to shimmer with hidden meaning. The journey from sleeper to rememberer to embodied self is not linear. It is a spiral, a sacred recurrence of cycles where we revisit the same patterns from ever higher vantage points. And it is a journey every soul must make, not just once in a lifetime, but many times, in many ways. There is no singular awakening. There are awakenings within awakenings, like nested dreams. And your future self is always the one standing at the next layer, calling you forward. Consider the image of the labyrinth, not a maze designed to confuse, but a sacred path that winds inward, always toward the center. At the beginning, the path feels aimless. You walk and turn and twist, and the center seems to drift further away. But what you cannot see from ground level is that the labyrinth is designed to bring you home. Every step, even the ones that feel like backtracking, are drawing you closer. Your future self stands at the center, not as a static endpoint, but as the gravity pulling you inward. You don't chase it. You remember your way back to it. There is also the allegory of the mirror room. Each wall reflects a different version of you, some confident, some lost, some radiant with divine knowing. At first, the mirrors seem external, but soon you realize each reflection is a possible self, activated or dormant depending on which version you choose to embody. The mirror room is not punishment, it is choice. Every day you choose which version of you steps forward. And your future self, the one sending you signals through these words, exists in the mirror of highest potential. Not because it is separate, but because it is waiting for your recognition. Symbolically, your future self is often encoded in mythic figures, the sage, the angel, the guide, even the higher self glimpsed in dream or vision. In ancient traditions, this self was called the daimon by the Greeks, the inner genius that whispered inspiration and direction. In Egyptian mysticism, it was the ka, the energetic double that exists in multiple dimensions. In shamanic traditions, it was the spirit guide, the ancestor self, the animal totem. Every culture has encoded this idea because it is not cultural, it is universal. We have always known, at some deep level, that we are walking alongside a version of ourselves that already knows the way. Even the myth of the phoenix, burning, dying, rebirthing, is a symbol of your transformation. When old identities crumble, when you feel lost or uncertain, it is not the end, it is the space between selves. The flame is not there to destroy you, it is there to strip away what is false. Your future self emerges not from avoiding the fire, but from walking through it with eyes open. There is also the great archetype of the bridge walker, the one who stands between worlds. You, right now, are a bridge walker. You are touching both the known and the unknown, the world that told you who to be and the world where you remember who you truly are. The bridgewalker is not fully comfortable in either realm. They feel too different in the sleeping world and too unsure in the awakened one. But their gift is movement, translation, transmission. You are here to receive the signal from the future self and bring it into the now. This is the symbolic heartbeat of your journey to become the embodied future, to collapse the illusion of time by aligning your present actions with the frequency of your highest knowing, not waiting to become the future self, but acting as it now, speaking as it, choosing as it, loving as it. You were sent here by a version of yourself who already made the leap. These words are not a map, they are a mirror, and what you see reflected will depend on the level of remembrance you allow. Even this moment, this very sentence, is a symbol. It is not random. The fact that you are still reading, still here, still listening, it means something. It means the frequency is aligning. It means the transmission is being received. You may not understand it all at once. That's okay. Some truths are seeds, not fruits. Let them sit. Let them root. They will grow in time. The final allegory is this. Picture a great lighthouse standing at the edge of the shore. It does not move. It does not shout. It simply shines. Its light is not meant to force, only to guide. You are the traveler on the stormy sea, drawn to that light. That lighthouse is not a stranger. It is not outside of you. It is you, beaming from a future timeline, holding steady through all your storms. You are steering homeward, not to something new, but to something ancient and unbreakably true. These symbolic narratives are not abstract poetry. They are tools. They are codes. And when taken in not just by the mind, but by the heart and body, they activate the next phase of your becoming. Your future self does not need you to be perfect. It only asks that you remember the light and move toward it, no matter how small the step. The story is yours. The path is yours, but you are never alone. The echo has reached you, the message is clear, and you are ready. Let us now descend from the symbolic to the soil, where these celestial insights root themselves in the terrain of your life. Not as distant dreams or poetic musings, but as the actual architecture shaping your daily choices, relationships, and self-conception. What good is a truth so lofty that it cannot touch your breath, your body, your decisions in the morning light? The deeper revelations are not meant to lift you away from the world, they are meant to awaken you within it. Integration is not an act of study, but of embodiment. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like the shift in gravity, when a new planet enters your orbit. The awareness that your future self is communicating through this moment is more than philosophy. It is a call to action in the most intimate sense. It suggests that you are already in contact with the next version of yourself, and every choice becomes a tuning fork, either vibrating in resonance with that higher frequency or distorting into static. In practical terms, this means becoming hyper-aware of your thoughts and emotions as energetic currencies. When you wake in the morning and immediately check your phone, is that action aligned with your future self or your conditioned patterns? When you speak with someone and feel triggered, does your response reflect the self who's remembering or the self who's still reacting? The shift is subtle, but the stakes are immense. Start to notice the moments you delay your knowing, the voice that says, "I'll meditate tomorrow. I'll start that creative project next week. I'll speak my truth once it's safer." Each of these delays is a subtle denial of your own evolution. Your future self is not waiting on circumstances. It is waiting on your yes, not the loud performative kind, but the quiet, sustained kind that shows up even when no one is watching. The true yes, the kind that rewires timelines. Your body too, becomes a vessel of transmission. Many people seek awakening through the mind, through books, through knowledge. But your body is the instrument that plays the song of remembrance. The posture you hold, the food you consume, the breath you take, they all either amplify or distort the signal of your higher self. Movement becomes medicine. Stillness becomes technology. Your nervous system is not just a biological feature. It is the interface through which divine data enters this realm. And so, something as ordinary as walking in nature becomes sacred. Listening to your breath becomes a cosmic act. Resting when your body asks becomes an act of rebellion against a world that demands burnout. These are not lifestyle tweaks. They are acts of devotion to the future self guiding you. They are anchors in higher timelines. Relationships too shift under this lens. When you begin living in communication with your future self, you stop needing others to validate or complete you. You realize that every relationship is either a mirror, a message, or a movement. Some people show you what still needs healing. Others speak words that were planted by your future self in their mouths. And some connections propel you forward so intensely, you feel time bend around them. These are not coincidences. They are assignments. The soul contracts you made before you incarnated are now coming due, and your level of presence will determine whether you honor them or default on them. You may also begin to notice reality behaving differently. As your consciousness elevates, synchronicities multiply. Doors open before you knock. Challenges arise not to punish, but to polish you. Even discomfort becomes a sacred compass, pointing toward the next layer that needs integration. Life stops happening to you and begins unfolding from you. You are no longer the victim of your story. You become the author who remembers they were always writing it. This shift also means confronting the illusions that have shaped your self-image. We live in a world where identity is often a cage disguised as a costume. The roles you were handed by family, society, religion, even your past traumas were not chosen by your soul. And yet, you've worn them like second skin. Now, your future self is peeling those layers away, not to expose you, but to reveal you. And it can feel terrifying. Because when the false selves fall, the ego screams that you are dying. But in truth, you are being born again, without forgetting who you are. This rebirth brings clarity around your purpose, not in the career-centric way society defines it, but in the deeper sense of contribution. You begin to ask not, what can I achieve, but what am I encoded to transmit into this world? Your existence becomes less about getting somewhere, and more about becoming a frequency that transforms every space you enter. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be perfect. You need only to be attuned. Even in the mundane, your job, your errands, your responsibilities, there is opportunity for alignment. When you wash dishes with reverence, the future self smiles. When you bring presence to a conversation, the signal strengthens. When you choose silence over argument, grace over judgment, gratitude over fear, you collapse timelines. You bring the future into the now. This is the true alchemy. And what about when it all falls apart? When you feel lost, stuck, confused? That is also integration, because the old self must disintegrate for the new self to emerge. Do not fear the void. The void is not absence. It is pure potential. It is the womb of what comes next. Your future self did not abandon you in your darkest hour. It placed you there to remember that you are the light, not to be rescued, but to resurrect yourself. Dreams take on new meaning in this phase. You may begin receiving downloads, symbols, visions, direct transmissions. Your future self speaks in dream because it is the language of the soul, unfettered by the conscious mind. Begin to record these dreams, study the patterns, speak to your higher self as though it's already here, because it is. It is not waiting in another lifetime, on another star. It is woven into your very breath. Technology, too, can serve as a bridge, not the mindless scrolling, but the intentional use of sound, light, breathwork, sacred geometry, guided meditations. These tools aren't magic. You are. The tools simply remind you. And even this video, this narration is such a tool, a reflection, a carefully timed message sent across dimensions from you, to you. And what you do next matters. Every choice is a vote for which timeline you continue. Every time you tune into stillness instead of chaos, you realign. Every time you say no to what drains your soul, you create space for what nourishes it. This is not metaphysics, it's mechanics. You are engineering your own awakening. So when you ask, why am I seeing this now? The deeper answer is because you were ready to start living as the one who sent it. The version of you who already crossed the threshold. The version of you who knows that all of this, every struggle, every synchronicity, every silence, was part of the blueprint. And now you remember. And now, here we are, at the edge of something that was never linear to begin with. If this journey began with curiosity, it now hums with remembrance. The message wasn't merely in the words, nor just the images or sounds. It was hidden between the pauses, encoded in the resonance you felt. Because you weren't here to learn something new, you were here to remember something ancient, something only you could uncover, because it was always buried in the marrow of your becoming. The idea that your future self sent you this message is not some abstract spiritual metaphor. It is a profound statement about the nature of time, consciousness, and choice. You are not walking toward your higher self. You are collapsing the illusion of separation between what you are and what you already contain. The future didn't send you a message to prepare you. The future sent you this to wake you up from the forgetting. The future is not ahead of you. It is echoing through you, here and now, like thunder chasing its lightning. You are not linear. You are layered, folded, fractaled. A consciousness experiencing itself through infinite mirrors, each one bending the light a little differently. And in some timeline, perhaps this one, perhaps one yet to fully stabilize, you are already awakened. You have already remembered. You are already living as the transmitter of light, not the seeker of it. The goal then is not arrival. It's alignment. It's to live as if you are already who you came to be. But here's the mystery. That version of you isn't waiting in the distance. It's waiting for your permission, your embodiment, your yes. Not a shallow affirmation, not a temporary motivation, but the deep, cellular yes that radiates through action, integrity, presence. A yes that rewires the very nature of your reality, because the universe cannot help but reflect the depth of what you hold. Do you understand what that means? It means that you are not a victim of your circumstance. You are a mirror of your deepest held beliefs. Shift your frequency, and the outer world must rearrange itself to match, not immediately, not always easily, but unavoidably. Because energy precedes form. Consciousness precedes experience. And your future self knows this. That's why it brought you here. It brought you to this moment, not just to hear, but to decide. You can continue down the familiar path of forgetting, of looping through the same patterns, waiting for someone or something outside of you to give you permission to change. Or you can step into the timeline where you become the permission, where you no longer seek the signal, but become it, where your life is not a reaction to the past, but a radiant response to the now. Because the great secret is this: the version of you who sent this message was also you in the present. You exist outside time, orchestrating your own evolution like a symphony. The future you is not ahead of you, it is inside you. That is why you feel it when truth lands. That is why synchronicities seem to whisper your name. That is why, in the quietest moments, you have always known there was something more. And this is that more. Not more information, not more content, but more clarity, more embodiment, more alignment. The spiritual path is not about collecting experiences. It's about becoming a frequency that transforms every space it enters. It's not about escaping the world. It's about electrifying it with your remembered presence. So what happens now? That is not a question to be answered with words. That is a frequency to be lived. It begins with the next breath you take, the next decision you make, the next time you choose presence over distraction, silence over noise, love over fear. Each of these is not small. They are massive. They bend time. They shake off layers of programming and resurrect the self who has been waiting silently behind your eyes. There will be moments of resistance. That is expected. You are not just awakening. You are unraveling lifetimes of forgetting. The ego will resist. The world may mock. The old patterns will beg for attention, like ghosts who refuse to be exorcised. But do not be afraid. That discomfort is not proof of failure. It is proof of evolution. You are shedding skins, so your light can finally breathe through. And in that breath, everything shifts. Because the you who watches this is not the same as the you who began. A choice has been made, even if subtly. A veil has been lifted, even if gently. You have entered the conversation with your future self. And once entered, it cannot be undone. You will begin to notice signs, phrases repeating, dreams intensifying, people crossing your path who feel like echoes of a higher rhythm. This is your multidimensional self, synchronizing the dance. Honor it. Honor the nudge that brought you here, the subtle impulse that told you to click, to watch, to stay. That was not random. That was destiny disguised as curiosity. That was the divine timing of a soul remembering its coordinates. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are precisely on time, because time itself was always your illusion. And so, I leave you with this final offering. Not as a guru, not as a teacher, not as a voice from the outside, but as the reflection of something you already are. The guide you sought has always been within. The answers you chased were always coded into your being. And the moment you stop seeking and start transmitting, everything changes. Live as if your future self is watching you right now, because it is, and it is cheering. Because you remembered, because you returned, because you finally chose the frequency of who you truly are. This was never a video. This was a portal, and you walked through it.
If you came this far, please consider subscribing. See you next video, Mystic friends.